I grew up in central New Jersey, a town called Highland Park, which is near Rutgers University, and perhaps a half an hour drive from where Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's husband, practiced law. Trivia, but it's tidbits. And I think I was aware first of literature probably around the age of 3. My father read stories to me. This is hugely important. This is not unusual for writers. You know, we all began reading at an earlier age. We all had a very early fascination with stories. My father used to read Mark Twain to me. And I remember A Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer. And you know, at that early age, 3, 5, 6, I didn't really have much of an understanding of why I was so fascinated by this stuff. But if you could look back over the arc of my entire life, you'd say, well, of course. Why not? What else would you think? And there was that. My father was also an avid newspaper reader. And his favorite was the New York Herald Tribune, no longer with us, sadly, which had the best writers. There were 7 or 8 daily newspapers in New York at that time. And the best written one was the Tribune. And I began reading that at quite an early age. And my favorite was Red Smith, the sports columnist, whose collections of columns you can still pick up in well-stocked libraries and probably bookstores, who had just wonderful ways of seeing and saying things. And I loved reading Red Smith. And so I became aware of that at an earlier age. I was a good speller, right? Most writers were as children. A few were not. So all this was going on. And I also had relatives on my mother's side who were artists. Her sister Elsie, as a very young woman, was an illustrator for the Office of Special Services, now called the CIA. And she illustrated instruction manuals for OSS agents in the field, you know, the little sketches and cartoons. So anyway, she wasn't a spy or with access to that kind of classified material, but she did have the manuscripts for the training manuals, and she did the illustrations for that. And my mother's other sister was married to a dry cleaning machine salesman who was also an artist, a painter on the side. And most important to me at the time, a very accomplished fly fisherman who taught me fishing at about the age of 7. And so he's largely responsible for what I do now. Got me interested in fishing, and it pretty much took my life over once I retired.